is it's all about trusting yourself and looking internally, because so many external factors will come. Oh, you need to hire a PR agency. You need to do this. You need to do that. Right. And then all of a sudden you have to go raise $2 million, right, to do anything. And then most people never get started because they define what they need as more than they have. So you can always get started if you define what you need as what you have. And if you don't have it, it means you don't need it. Yeah.
Hello. Welcome to another knowledge bomb episode of Lead to Greatness, where we believe in helping others reach their greatest potential and together change the world. Today on Lead to Greatness, we have Tomer Alpert.
And if this is your first time, don't forget to subscribe. Hit that like button, hit the notification bell so you won't miss any of these amazing episodes. And if you're on iTunes, go ahead and rate the podcast and leave a review. That helps get the word out to great leaders and entrepreneurs like yourself.
Tomer is pioneering how to use social media technology to make us feel more connected, valued, and special. He brought his talent or his love for innovation to create Felt, a social app for your real friends in the real world. With Felt, you can send each other cards in the mail without needing to know an address. Homer was featured on Shark Tank, USA Today, HuffPost, Mashable, Heavy, Real Simple, and more. Felt is bringing the heart and soul to social and making our connections real again. Please help me welcome Homer with Mental Acceptance.
This is Cedric Francis, and you are listening to Lead to Greatness.
I run a company called Felt, F-E-L-T. We're an app that lets you send handwritten cards through the mail, all from your phone. You download the app from the App Store, then we print and mail your card within 24 hours. You handwrite using your finger or a stylus on your screen, and then we print and mail that exact thing you made. Yep. You know, I just started my own recording for my podcast, and I've been thinking about doing this for 10 years. And I'm a mixed bag of everything about it. I'm passionate about it. I'm scared about it. I'm worried it has no value for people. And ultimately, it's an experiment, because what I'm trying to do is bring my authentic, genuine self to every recording and reveal what's happening. Literally, through the mental layers of waking up every morning as the owner, CEO, entrepreneur of a startup who's creating something that's never been done before, going through all the trials and tribulations, and ultimately how I'm interweaving spiritual, mental health beliefs that I've picked up along the way to get through the day's trials, tribulations, what have you. So it's an inside out view from someone in my shoes. So we started the company, and the first most immediate thing was the loudest, alarm in my head, which was, get customers. And it was like, how do we get customers? For the longest time, I relied on people outside of myself to get customers, and it didn't work. We were 3 or 4 years into the business, and we were still very small, not surviving, and we were accumulating credit card debt. And I lost some relationships, some partnerships that I thought were really important. But when they left, when that route didn't work, what I realized was I was hiding from my potential behind these other people. I was like, they're better than me. They're the ones that should do it. And I thought I was doing the right thing. You asked me back then, what should we be doing? I'm like, that we have these experts on our team. They're the ones doing it. But when we just ran out of time with them. Literally, they're like, we need to go work on other things. I was like, okay, dang it. When that failure happened, my spirit woke up. And literally, I remember sitting there and be like, well, now it's just me. And everything unlocked because I had nobody else. I was like, okay, I need to do this. I was like, and then it just happened. I was like, wait, I know how to do this. And so what I'm referencing here is the story of how I got on Shark Tank. So I tried to get on Shark Tank for 3 years in a row. I made videos just like this, me sitting here talking, telling you about how great Felt is. Never got on. And then when I lost these partnerships, I was like, I have to get on Shark Tank. And then it hit me. I was like, Shark Tank's TV. I got to either make good drama or I got to make good humor. One of those two things. And then I was like, and then I just had this flood of ideas just come through me like a vision. And I just started writing this script for my audition video. And it was hilarious. And we basically got to work. I was like, this is it. This is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to get on Shark Tank. And then I drove overnight to the audition. They had an audition the next day. They had an audition in Provo or Salt Lake, Utah. And I drove overnight to get there. And I interviewed in person. And then we got the audition video request. And I made this hilarious video. And ultimately we got on the show. But what happened was timing happened. You know, my journey as an entrepreneur from the very beginning, when I was like, I want to be my own boss. I want to control my time. I don't want anybody else having control over my time. And from that moment forward, it was, my unfolding, how it unfolded is what it is all about for me as an individual soul on earth. I truly feel now that my purpose is to hit the edges of what I'm capable of, to touch the edge, to push the edge, to expand. And now I see all these things that have been happening and how expansive everything that's happened to me has increased my edge. And so now, in our 10th year, I've redefined my goals. My goals are not to achieve some numeric outcome. My goal is to have wonderment, joy, and to continue to push and expand the edges of myself. Now I'm ready. Now I'm the version of myself that's ready to, do this. So I smoked a lot of marijuana. I drink beers, like, a couple beers, 3 beers. And what did all that do? It hid myself from me, right? Because what was I trying to do? I was trying to escape my own self, my own inner stuff. And through working with a therapist, my very first therapist was actually fantastic. And she was helping me through art therapy and through other just modalities and just knowledge transfer. So many, dude, I didn't know anything. Nobody taught me growing up that this is how psychology and the inner workings and the soul, mind, body. And then I went into CBT therapy, cognitive behavioral health therapy, or cognitive behavioral therapy, and learned a lot. And then my unlocking moments came later. So my next therapy was dialectical behavioral therapy. And it was the real shift for me. And when I say the real shift, what it did is it brought me into my own intuitive knowing. Dialectical behavioral health therapy has 9 modules. The final module is what they call wise mind, which is your own intuition. It lit something inside me that I just knew this was for me. And so then I started listening to my own inner voice, my own inner knowing. I've been a renegade my whole life. So when my therapist said, what do you think? What do you know already to be true? Man, it just flipped the whole script back at me and asked me to look inside for the answers, asked me to look inside for what I was doing out here. Why did I start Felt? What is Felt about for me? And when I started doing that was a radical shift. So following my intuition daily, mindfulness, awareness, and following intuition. It's all in the same sphere of turning attention inwards. So that was my turning point for me. That was also 5 years ago, so none of this for me happened quickly. It was a slow burn.
So let's shift to Felt real quick. What inspired you to begin this journey and why?
I am so fired up on Felt right now. I tell you, I did not grow up sending cards. My parents never taught me to do thank you cards. They taught me to be thankful and grateful, but never through cards. My parents were immigrants, so they didn't have the exchange of cards as a tradition. But I grew up in public school, first and foremost. Second of all, I was a CB student and I had girlfriends. So I passed notes back and forth in school. So when I had this idea for Felt, it was 5 years into a journey of wanting to build a company. So for 5 years, I was brainstorming ideas with friends. We had ideas from like farmers market delivery services. And when the idea for Felt came up, it was on the way back from a dinner party. And my then girlfriend wanted to send a thank you card. I was like, oh, that sounds like a great idea. But man, the stores were closed, we're tired. I hadn't bought stamps in years. No idea how to even get started. I was like, there's got to be an app for this.
Yeah.
But the apps only let you type. I was like, I am not sending a typed thank you card. Just not going to do it. And then I was like, plus for me, it was all about letter writing, right? It was all about creating a letter for someone, creating a note for someone.
Yeah.
So then I downloaded an art app and I hand wrote a little thing. And then I went to my friend's laser printer. I was like, hey, can I print this? This was back when the iPad first came out.
Wow.
We printed my little drawing and I looked at it, I was like, this is awesome. Like I would totally mail this printed hand-drawn thing to someone as a thank you card.
Yeah.
So that was the beginning of Felt, but I always tied it back to an exchange, a back and forth exchange between friends of something that I created just for you and the anticipation of getting one back. So we just released this cool feature. So now when you send a Felt card, you have the option to let your friend scan this code and send one back to you. Now people can actually get meaningful, thoughtful letters back and forth from each other.
Yeah.
And I've started doing this with my friends. Every time I send a text, bam, it gets there. Oh, and I know they read it. And then they send one back to me and they know I read it. And it's so instant, which is great. But now when I send a Felt card, I'm like, man, they might send one back. And with the friends that we're actually sending cards back and forth with, I know they're going to send one back. Yeah. And I know it's going to take like 3 or 4 days, maybe a week and a half, whatever. So I have this layer of anticipation in my life that I haven't had since I was in junior high school. The whole idea of anticipating something wonderful doesn't exist anymore. Everything is immediate, instant. We're talking about, in the era of FaceTime and Facebook Live, which are great technologies, but we simply don't have anticipation. Yeah. And yeah, I've regained anticipation in my life, and it's joyful. It's awesome. So I hope everybody has the same level of meaningful experience that I'm having with with Felt, exchanging cards back and forth. So you download Felt on iOS or Android, and you sign up, and then you can pick photos off your phone. This is a photo of my kid's soccer game that I made. And so you can make these Felt cards. You can handwrite. So this is actually written on my phone. And then Felt prints and mails these for you. Yeah. So you can do, these are single panel, but you can also add up to 4 panels and the card grows and it comes folded up.
Yeah.
And then for friends that you start with, you have to get their address from them if they're not on Felt yet. And then you mail them a card, their first card. And then when they send you back a card, then they made their own account. They put their own address on their account. We then connect you to in your Felt address books. Yeah. Now, the next time you send cards back and forth, you're using each other's addresses, which are kept private and secure, so you don't actually see them. Yeah. Which means you can keep them up to date if you move, and cards always find each other. So we're building a globalized address book layer in Felt where people can come in, send cards. They don't have to know each other's addresses anymore. They're kept updated because everybody's managing their own stuff. And you can get back to making personal, thoughtful, cool letters for each other that come in the mail.
I love the concept of this because it's so tangible. It's so tangible. Everything is just so digital, and it's nothing. It's like you can't feel it. You can't touch it or whatever. It's just a click of a button. So I mean, I love the thought and I love the concept of this, and how it can grab it and they can hold it and they can put it in their office and things like that instead of just going through their social media, through their computer. I love the name Felt. It allows people to feel.
And think about this. We want people to feel special to each other, to each other. So what I offer is this idea. Think about who wants to feel special to you. Who needs to hear from you? Who do you want to make sure they know that you're loved and cared about by me? Yeah. The people that come to my mind, my best friends growing up, my brother, my sister, my mom, my dad, my 2 kids. These are all people that I cherish, knowing that they know how important they are, that they are cared, loved about, and I want them to feel that. And those are the people that I send felt cards to.
I want to shift to the business perspective. For example, like starting up or whatever. What are some of the obstacles, or some of the things that you dealt with early on in the business, and how did you overcome those obstacles?
So I like to bring this all back to me,
Okay.
the individual, because you can talk about, we don't have money, you don't have financing, you don't have all these things. But I was taught early on that you do what you can do with what you have. I've also been taught the definition of abundance is having what you need. You always have what you need to do what you need to do. It keeps me from chasing obscure moonshot sort of things, right? It's all about trusting yourself and looking internally, because so many external factors will come. Oh, you need to hire a PR agency. You need to do this. You need to do that, right? And then all of a sudden you have to go raise $2 million, right, to do anything. And then most people never get started because they defined what they need as more than they have. So you can always get started if you define what you need as what you have. And if you don't have it, it means you don't need it. Yeah. So let's start with that. And then I'll just tell you where I'm at today. So here's where I'm at today, in a lot of fear. So I woke up literally today saying, man, I'm trying to bring this new back and forth between friends, behavior to the world. I'm building this podcast, which is literally me revealing what's going on with me and how I'm dealing with it. Yeah. And my fear is I'm not supposed to be doing this. I'm not good enough, the classic I'm not good enough. But I don't hear I'm not good enough. For anybody out there who's like, I hear everybody saying that the thing is that they don't feel good enough, but they don't actually hear that. I don't hear that either. It's like, shut the F up. That's what I hear, because that's what I heard in junior high. That's what kids were saying. Oh shit, So that's what I hear. I hear it comes, the classic I'm not good enough, but that's the fear that everything I'm doing is a waste because of me. Yeah. And so that's my biggest impediment is within me. And how do I cope with it is literally the same thing. I go inside, and what I love, loving attention is like a loving attention from a parent. So that attention that I bring to even that negative, I'm not good enoughness, I don't beat it down. I don't try to segregate it. I don't push it away. I don't try to chop it off. What I do is simply be with it. And I don't judge it as positive or negative, because even the thought is part of existence, right? That thought energy is still energy. Yeah. So if I say, oh, you're not right energy, well, I'm just saying everything is not right. It is actually right, because through it, I'm growing. So literally, that's what this whole thing is about for me. I'm like, okay, that's what that is. I'm open to it. And I have this loving stance with it. And I went through a divorce, and I went through a couple other big, personal changes. Moved from my dream hometown back into the big city. Had to let go of a lot of big personal dreams. Had to really go through a lot of grieving. And here's what I was taught. If you're in pain, you're weak. And if you're weak, you're not liked. And if you're not liked, you're probably going to die soon, right? Because as humans, being liked is being in a tribe. Being in a tribe is being safe. Being safe is life, is living. So it all led to death. So the fear of having negative emotions was death. It was huge. And which makes sense. That's why we go and smoke weed or drink or do all these other destructive behaviors, because culturally, if you're not thriving, you're a loser. Yeah. So how do you fit in? You don't. And that's why we're having these conversations. That's why we're shifting into a culture that's more accepting of having these conversations. So here we are. So here's what it looked like for me. First of all, a lot of shame, ton of shame. And it literally hurt around my heart. I had sharp pains that I would have. Wow. And I was telling my therapist at the time, I'm like, when I do my body scans, right, where do I feel my emotions in my body? I'm like, I feel sharp pain in my heart, and I don't know if it's okay, And she's like, well, do you think you're having a heart attack? I'm like, no, I don't think I'm dying, but it's weird. So it got weird, and luckily I had someone to talk to. So I talked to her about that. But then here's how gruesome it got. It got to the point where, as I worked with acceptance, what I ended up doing was laying down on the ground on my back, and I would cry in like convulsion cries. Like the amount of like negative energy that was moving through my body was like heaving my body, and it was literally painful. So acceptance, though, unlocked the pain. I mean, acceptance is like a flashlight. You see something, you shine. Accept whatever the heck comes up. Acceptance allowed me to move through the pain, into the pain, vibrating through my body. When I touch the pain, it's just too much. Yeah. Right? Here's this beautiful way of thinking about it. Pain is the same thing as joy. Like deep sorrow, deep heartache is on the same wavelength as joy. Why do I say that? Because joy is like the pinnacle, right? And it's almost hard to stay in joy. It's so gnarly. Well, heartache is the same. It's hard to be in heartache because it is so gnarly. But they are the same. If you go into the heartache with acceptance, what happens is it flows. It wants to flow. You've dammed it up, right? And you're spending so much energy holding back the dam because you're afraid if you open it, you'll be annihilated. There's a thing called annihilation anxiety. Therapist I had, she was like, do you feel like you have this sort of anxiety or that sort of, I was like, I feel like I'm going to be annihilated. She was like, well, sounds like you have annihilation anxiety. And that's what I was afraid of. I was afraid that if I had negative feelings, I would cease to exist. Literally cease to exist. Yeah. And sometimes the pain can feel so unacceptable that you fear that you will just not exist. Work at it a little bit. When you do a couple revolutions of acceptance into the pain and you come out, well, what does your brain start to say? Oh, wait, I can do this. Oh, wait, I'm not annihilated. Okay, so you do it a couple of times. And then all of a sudden you're like, this is gnarly. This is a radical experience. And then what you begin to find is the thing that you want exists within you. What do we all want? Thrill? Well, let me tell you something. You lay down with your heartache and you work on acceptance and you let that river of shame and guilt and everything flow through you, it is a thrilling experience. You want to face that tiger? I mean, you got the tiger within, you just face it and it becomes thrilling.
I mean, that's that thing. I mean, right when you see that mountain and you going up that mountain, I mean, you'll feel it. But then, like you said, I mean, while you're doing it, you're like, wow. Because a moment, something will snap in your head, be like, oh, wow, I'm still alive. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. I remember I used to be in the military and, oh, my goodness, running sometimes we run. And at the moment when it feels like I'm about to pass out, it's just like you just shifting my mind into something. And it's just like, I don't know, this burst of energy just comes and I just go. And I thought about when you was talking about pain and joy, I was like, wow, what's so interesting about both of them is when the pain is unbearable, it makes you cry. And when the joy is unbearable, it makes you cry. That's amazing.
Yeah. It's and that is a hard place to hold. It is a hard place to hold. Here's what I want to say. You brought up images of the military and of running, and I'm a cyclist and I'm an ultra endurance person and I love getting after it.
Yeah.
And how normalized, how acceptable do we make all those things? Yeah. And what if we can just start embracing emotions the same way? It's only like the pain is so scary to go into. Why? Yeah, it physically hurts, but we do other things that physically hurt. So why? Why is the idea of sitting with your pain so scary? And the answer is because, your parents, my parents, their parents, whoever told you, stop it, right? So we were taught.
You know how many times I was told not to cry? You know how many times I was told not to do this and not, it's like when I, to like block my emotions, to like cut my emotions out. I mean, it's times, and when you talk about childhood, it all goes back to then when somebody told me to do something that was totally normal and I ran from it. And here I am, find myself now in my 40s, still running from it.
Makes total sense. I mean, that's what I want to say is like, I get that ephemerally. Like, I get it, man.
Yeah.
I was the kid who had to be cool. Had to be cool. Because if I wasn't cool, I was unaccepted. And that meant really, you know, I had no friend group. And that to me looked like death.
Yeah.
I had to be cool. So for me to go from like having to be cool to literally having a podcast where I'm like turning myself inside out, sharing all the very uncool things is a miracle. But again, it's me coming into a version of myself that I've been pulled into through the entrepreneurial journey, through building a company, through facing the fears of talking about the business and building the business and going on Shark Tank and doing all the stuff that I've done. It's all intertwined. So as we talk about being leaders, as we talk about being entrepreneurs, if we talk about it, let's also make sure to hit the elephant in the room, which is how scary is it? How to deal with the fear, why dealing with the fear feels like an unimaginable burden.
Yeah.
And let's normalize it so that we can deal with these things as normal as, hey, I'm going to go climb a mountain tomorrow. I'm training to climb a mountain. Oh, good for you. You're training to climb a mountain. How sore are you today? Like, need some Epsom salt? How, right? It's like, okay, what if we said, dang, you're starting a business? How freaked out are you? Need someone to talk to? I don't know, like need to go lay down and like ground yourself and let some, I don't know, rivers of tears flow?
Goodness.
You can't do it if it's not socially acceptable, because we're social animals. You will not do it if you think you're going to be exiled. So if you want more leaders, more people to be innately motivated, we have to embrace the emotional side of life, just like we embrace the physical side of life.
Salmer, those are a load of knowledge bombs. Man, you're helping us on today, and this is really good. I'm definitely excited. You know, it's those things that makes us feel uncomfortable, but man, it's definitely worth it, and I definitely love it. I love where you took this podcast, and this is just so amazing. I can't wait to go back and listen and ponder on some of the things that you shared on today. This is great. This is great. So thank you. If someone wants to connect with you and what you're doing, where should they go?
You can find Felt on Instagram. That's the best. And then you can find me on YouTube. Podcast is going to be your daily trip with Tomer. What you can do in Felt, because Felt's a social network. So everybody has a profile, and when you have your profile, you put your birthday on there and your address, but your address is always kept private and secure. We just print it on the envelopes. So we're trying to give people an easy way to find each other, send cards to one another. And so what you can do is you can post a link to your address book. And then anybody who you want to connect with on Felt can join you on Felt, and then you're in each other's address books, which lets you then send birthday cards, send thank you cards, little follow-up notes. You can send little tidbits and tips and tricks out on Felt. Comes in the real mail, obviously. You get to hold and keep it forever, and it's a special way to be able to touch people like that.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
We want to thank you for joining us today on the Lead to Greatness podcast. So remember, if you help others reach their greatest potential, together we can change the world. Peace.